So I want to welcome everybody to our monthly spirituality salon at Oracle Temple. It's the church for our community, which is called the Valley of Light. And we're really pleased to host these salons once a month, which always feature a new speaker and which always feature a new theme, all related to the paradigm shift, really. So tonight, it is my great honor to introduce our guest speaker. His name is Dr. Jon Turk. He is a scientist, an author, and a National Geographic award-winning explorer. He kayaked around Cape Horn and across the North Pacific from Japan to Alaska. He also made numerous first ski descents and first rock climbing ascents around the globe. Jon holds a PhD in organic chemistry, and he co-authored the first college-level environmental science textbook in North America. He then wrote an additional 35 scientific texts, and he's written 6 books about his adventures. His latest book is entitled Tracking Lions, Myth, and Wilderness in Samburu. It's a provocative look at the vital connection between human beings, the natural world, and meaningful knowledge. Jon's worldview is altered by extended visits with Malinat, a Siberian shaman, and his current work now focuses on honoring the power of nature as a means of achieving presence within the modern, opulent, scientific, corporate, and uber-political 21st century. Today, Jon relies heavily on the teachings of indigenous peoples who live sustainably on this planet for millennia. So welcome, Jon, and thank you so much for being our guest speaker tonight.
Wow, Laura, thank you. Thank you for that. It's a delight to be here and to see the picture of that wonderful Oracle Institute and the river that we just talked about. So I'm going to share screen here, share. Uh-oh, that's not the screen I want to share. What happened? I got to share this screen. Here we go. So here we go. We're all sharing away. We're talking about shamans heal, ceremony heals, but nature is the greatest healer. And I'm going to take you on a journey that I've been on for 20 years, 25 years, maybe 50 years. You never know about those things. And it will span an area from the tundra of Siberia to the desert of Northeast Africa. So in 1999 and 2000, I was an adventurer. I was a professional adventurer. I had been a professional scientist and then went into adventuring. I sought sponsors and I tried to do gnarly, dangerous things. So I attempted with some partners to kayak across the North Pacific Ocean in a standard kayak from Japan to Alaska. It was a 2-year journey, and some days, like in the previous photo, we had beautiful, wonderful, calm weather, and one day we were caught in this big storm, and the wind started to blow, the rain started to fall, and the wind picked the water up and blew it into the rain, and the wind picked the rain up and blew it into the waves. And just about that time, we were along the coast, and there was a village. And I was with my Russian partner, Misha, and we said, well, there's a storm out here. There's a nice warm house in there. There's probably bread baking in the oven. We better go to shore. So we paddled to shore, and we were met by this woman, Lydia, Koryak woman. Get out of my kayak, man, I'm old and creaky. I get out of my kayak, and Lydia comes up to me and speaks in English, which was a bit of a surprise. And she says, Jon, Misha, it's good to see you. We were expecting you. The grandmother created a storm to bring you to our village. She wants to talk to you. But what did I think? I'm a scientist. I'm a laboratory scientist. But I wasn't in a position to be cynical, to doubt, to question. There was a storm out there, and there was warm bread baking in the oven, and there were people welcoming me with open hearts and minds. And I said, sure, we'd love to speak to the grandmother. And the next day we went upriver to meet Mulanat. She was 96 at the time. She was born during the reign of Tsar Nicholas II. She lived through the entire rise and fall of the Soviet Empire. And now she was living after perestroika, in capitalistic bandito capitalism Russia. And she said to me, she didn't say much. You know, I expected if there was all this commotion, she created the storm to bring us to our village, that she would, you know, have something really she wanted to say, some wisdom. But her wisdom was simple, 7 words: come back. It will be good if you do. And that launched 5 years I spent off and on, not continuously, but 5 years in Siberia. And during this time, I re-injured an old injury to my pelvis. And she had me stand on one leg with one arm stretched before me and one arm behind my back in the pose of the crane pose, the pose of flight. And she asked Kutka, the raven, to fly to the woman who lives on top of the tallest mountain, and asked the woman to heal me, and she did. And before the event, or before the time with Mulanat, I could barely walk, and the next day I skied a big, tall mountain. I wrote about these experiences in my book, The Raven's Gift: A Scientist, a Shaman, and Their Remarkable Journey Through the Siberian Wilderness. And I'm not going to give you any kind of an answer or explanation of what happened. I don't know. That's not the question. That's not the important question. For the same reason, when I was there, I just accepted reality. I accepted the generosity and the love of the people that were there, and let's just accept that healing for what happened. And now, 20 years later, I was invited to go to the desert in northeastern Kenya, in the Samburu Nation, and become involved in a project of tracking lions. The Samburu people are herding people. The young boys, 10-year-old boys, take the cattle out. This was in the middle of a 3-year drought. And there was very little to eat for everybody, for the cows. Look how skinny the cows are, the people, and the lions. So one day, a lion killed and ate a cow. And I was asked to join the village headman and track the lion. Can you see me here? I was given this club, a wooden club, as my weapon of defense should the lion become angry and come out and attack us. Wooden club. And so I'm starting to think, where does our power come from? How did people survive on this savanna facing the lion with a wooden club? And here is the paradox of humanity that we have to face right off the bat. Humans grew big brains long before they developed sophisticated tools and weaponry. We think of ourselves as a gadget-oriented, tool-oriented species, and we certainly are today. But that is not what gave us our strength. 70,000 years ago, the population of humanity almost got wiped out. We were almost extinct. And what brought us to life? What brought us to power? What brought us to survival? Not the tools, not stone tools. It was art. And that's perhaps the most important lesson of this talk today, is that art gave us our power. And how does art give you power? Well, this art is 70,000 years ago. If we jump to this art, we're jumping a quick 35,000 years ago. Look at this picture. There's a man facing a bison. But if you look closely, you see that the man has a lion's head, is leaning back on his heels, has a giant erection. There's a bird in the lower left-hand corner. There's a spear cutting through the bison, and the guts of the bison are falling out. What is this? Well, clearly, we don't know the story. I don't know the story. Nobody knows the story, but it's a myth. It's a part of a communal ritual, part of ceremony. It's the story. We're a storytelling people. We're a ceremony loving people. We get together, we tell stories, we burn sweetgrass, we burn sage, we come together, and we become greater than our individuality. Just as an ant cannot survive alone, it needs a colony. Humans cannot survive alone. We need each other. We need love. And this is what brought us together. This is what gave us power, art and storytelling. Wouldn't it be wonderful if my story would end here? But a problem arises. About 12,000 years ago, humanity concentrated into cities with lots of people, agriculture, more sophisticated societies, and we got leaders. And the leaders became the storytellers. They stole the talking stick. They stole the power stone. Because storytelling, mythology, art, dance, symbolism draws us together, but it can also tear us apart. Yeah, let's go back to what I learned in Siberia in my 5 years of Siberia. Let's go back to where we have to go back to. What I learned in Siberia is that the power of the tribe, the power of the people, is divided in 3 ways. There's the shaman, the spiritual leader, the person who takes us to the other world on the black wings of the flying raven. There's the hunter, the pragmatist, that supplies us with food, that helps us build shelter against the winter storms. But most important is the tundra, the earth, the Mother Earth. And it is only through a reciprocal relationship, a loving, caring, back and forth, giving and thanking relationship with the tundra that we survive. So here is the earth. I choose this picture because it is so surreal, it's so cosmic, but it's not alterated in any way. It's not a Photoshop. This is the earth we live on, with a crown of aurora rising over us, a holy place. But on the ground, we live in the Anthropocene, and we as humans are causing great damage. And we have to find a way out. We have to find a way back to that giving, reciprocal, loving, thanking relationship. We have to thank the earth, not take from it. And how do we get there? I started my life as a scientist, and I believed very strongly that the answers to our problems, the answers to a loving and sustainable future for humanity would be through science. 50 years later, I'm still a scientist at heart, but I've come over the last 50 years to understanding that science is not enough. It's an add-on. We have to science doesn't give us power. An old woman in Siberia, Marina, told me, if you lose your magic in your life, you lose your power. She didn't say if you lose your iPad, you lose your power, or if you lose the keys to your bulldozer, you lose your power. She said if you lose the magic in your life. So with all the tools and all the science and all the solar panels and all the computers and all the iPads and all the wonderful lithium batteries that are being developed, I get it. But we need a consciousness revolution to come back to the earth. There are many ways to reach this consciousness revolution, many ways. As many ways as there are people. If there are 7.5 billion people, there are 7.5 individual wonderful journeys. If I were an oboe player, I would talk to you about finding presence, finding gratitude, finding love through playing the oboe. I'm not an oboe player, you see. I worked for a number of years as a storytelling with the dance company out of Boston. And boy, I know that dance will reach deep into your subconscious and deep into your spiritual journey and take you there. Me, I'm just a kayaker. That's not a criticism or a compliment. It's just who I am. And I know for an absolute fact that one way to make this journey towards a consciousness revolution, towards sustainability, towards love, towards individual presence is through nature, because nature will heal. Shamans heal and ceremony heals, but nature tells no stories. Nature cleans us out from our think too much, know it all brain. Nature opens it up, opens up the soul and heals. And so as the sun is setting on my African journey, I ask you to find your own way into presence. It's all about presence. It's all about living in the now. If you're living in the now, you will love. If you live in the now, you will not be angry. If you live in the now, you will appreciate what the earth gives us and thank her every moment of your life. Thank you very much.